Now this video is going to rub many of us the wrong way because it's a video that is not going to cater to your emotions, nor is it going to go along with the rhetoric that we've been conditioned to accept. Today I'm going to talk about homicide in the Black community. You see, part of the propaganda was convincing us that we determined how much Black life should matter, when in actuality, Black life mattering has always been up to the people that have been in control. One of the major symptoms of systemic racism is Black people not valuing Black life. So you must understand that not valuing Black life is an intentional product of racism. And we've established that racism is not a social issue, but it's an economic issue.
Plus, we do a lot of cutting and shooting of each other, though we profess to be nonviolent.
But I want to talk about homicide in the Black community. The number one cause of death for Black men ages 0 to 44 is homicide. That is babies, that is young children, that is teenagers, that is young adults, that is grown men. The number one cause of death is homicide. Now, many of us will argue these figures, but these figures came directly from the CDC. I wanted to discuss raw numbers and not articles with the spin on a narrative. The raw numbers suggest that the number one cause of death for Black men ages 0 to 44 is homicide. And those homicides are committed by someone else that's Black 93% of the time. Now, this is what we don't like to talk about because this forces us to look in the mirror. It forces us to do some self-evaluating. Many times we get thrown off when we hear words like Black on Black crime. I do agree that Black on Black crime is a myth because crime is about proximity. However, homicide in the Black community is something different. Even if I don't use the CDC statistics, most articles will support that homicide in the Black community is a real problem.
Something that is kept a secret, and many times it's connected to stop snitching.
Snitches get stitches.
Yes. Yes. And the ones that don't get snitched on continue to hurt and kill and terrify and destroy our community.
Many times we complain about our violence towards each other. Many times we complain about how violent we are towards each other. Many times we say that we should stop killing each other. We need to stop killing each other. This is said all across the country. But when it's time to discuss this on larger platforms, nobody wants to address it, which leads me to believe that people don't really care about Black life. They only care about Black life when it's tied to a political agenda. So the Democrats and the liberals have convinced us that discussing homicide in the Black community is somehow supporting racism. The Democrats and the liberals have convinced us that Black on Black violence is not a real thing. And they suggest that we focus on deaths that occur at the hands of non-Black people because those deaths have a political and monetary agenda attached to them. You see, discussing the homicide rate in the Black community would mean you would have to go to the root of the cause. And you would find yourself staring at systematic racism. We were conditioned to not value each other. And Black life not mattering has not mattered across the board for centuries.
You don't see these killings in mass numbers like this in other races. You know, how can we expect someone else to respect us if we don't respect ourselves? So the Black on Black crime that is plaguing not only Chicago, Detroit, Minneapolis, so many cities across the nation, but you have to start at home. You have to take care of home. You know, you have to make sure that our young people
See, our existence is very limited because we have been taught to compare ourselves to white people. So if I dare to say that homicide in the Black community is a real problem, I will be countered with, well, white people kill each other too. And that is correct. White people kill each other too, just like Asian people kill each other too, and just like Hispanic people kill each other too, because a part of homicide is proximity. But if I go to the raw numbers don't suggest that white people kill each other like black people do. Homicide is the fourth leading cause of death for white men ages 0 to 19. The leading cause of death for black men ages 1 to 44 is homicide. The fourth leading cause of death for white men ages 1 to 19 is homicide. So the numbers clearly suggest that it's not the same, because we are 12 to 14% of the population. It shouldn't matter what white people do. Black life should matter to black people, period. And black life has to matter to black people first before it can matter to anybody else. We've been conditioned to not make a big deal about all of these homicides in our community, even though we know what's going on, even though we've seen victims, even though it's affected our families. We still don't want to discuss it, because somehow they convinced us that caring about black life in totality is supporting racism. It's supporting white people with racist views. In actuality, white people don't need an excuse to be racist. And somehow we've got conditioned to think that we are giving them reasons to be racist, and we are not. We are not giving white people a reason to be racist. They are racist because they have poor character. The system was designed for black life not to matter even to black people. And this is why we can't discuss the black homicide rate in the black community on large platforms, because they can't spin a narrative around it. You would have to address the real issue. You would have to address the root cause. So even Black Lives Matter is propaganda, because clearly, if black lives really mattered, there are many things we would be outraged about when it came to black life. But again, we've been conditioned on how to care about black life. We've been conditioned on how black life should matter. Black life only matters to those suffering from black life being lost.
Bother you that you guys are always kind of linked together? Whether it's the media or fans, we're always talking about the two of you?
Not at all. You know, I live in America. You know, America like that black on black violence, so I drive on it. That's fine.
But don't take my word for it. Just talk to the mothers. Talk to the siblings. Talk to the grandparents. Talk to the fathers. Talk to the loved ones. Talk to the friends. Talk to people and see.
You never get over a situation like this where all three of your kids have been gunned down. You can never get over something like this, but you can get through it.
How much impact these homicides weigh on our communities.
Last night we were at home. I had just finished dinner. My son was playing in the family room. I was washing dishes, and all of a sudden we heard what sounded like machine gun fire. I ran, I grabbed him, we got on the floor, and the next thing you know, a bullet came through the wall, about 5-7 feet away from where he was playing, and it came in and entered out the back wall.
The couple who lives in the targeted home is a pastor and his wife. Police say their grandson, who used to live with them, is the intended target of the gunfire.
We can't continue to exist under this white ideology. We have to break free from it. Because as you see, they controlled everything, even how we feel about black life. And many of us will let our emotions lie to us and convince us that I am somehow supporting racism, that I am somehow giving white people an excuse for being racist, not realizing that black people could be perfect and not do anything wrong, and white people would still be racist. Because being racist is a character issue. It has nothing to do with another person or group of people with a skin color you do not like.
You are rarely going to get shot down and killed as a white man just because you talked back to the police. Very, very rare. You know, let me tell you something. Right now in Chicago, some weekends, 20, 30 black people are killing each other, just shooting each other dead. This has been going on for years. I just can't get a strong and a powerful enough musical artist to work with me, but I wrote a piece called The Soundtrack of My Life. Because in Chicago, the soundtrack is sirens, police sirens, gunshots, helicopters. That's all you really hear, because every weekend on the South Side, we killing each other. One of the main reasons it's going on because there's not going to be true interaction, because it's black people killing black people. Let 5 white guys get killed by 5 white guys. Society will raise up about that.
For Black life to matter, it has to matter to us. For Black life to truly matter, it has to matter to us first. Even when it's not linked to what we think racism is, it has to matter. Even when there's no political agenda attached to it, it has to matter. Even when there's no monetary incentive attached to it, it has to matter. Black life has to matter, period. So it shouldn't have to take a non-black person killing a black person. A black person killing a black person should be enough. We must break these chains of constantly comparing ourselves to white people. The life expectancy of a black man is 69 years old, and the number one cause of death from ages 1 to 44 is homicide. I want you to put that in perspective. And the second leading cause of death for black women ages 1 through 19 is homicide. And who do you think is killing black women? That's right. The same ones killing black men, and that is black men.
Preliminary hearing for Merriweather, who police say was part of 2 groups shooting at each other driving down the road in November. Police say 1 person was killed, and with the crash, it ended. But for Judge Shelton,
with total disregard of the safety of the public,
things were just getting started.
I'm tired of seeing young black men shooting at each other in this community, in this nation. I don't understand it. I grew up in a time when people wore white robes and they shot at black people. And now we see young black men wearing black hoodies shooting at black men and doing a much more effective job than the Klan ever thought about doing. I'm sick of it.
Am I justifying what white people have done across the world? Of course not. White people have terrorized the planet. But because white people have terrorized the entire planet doesn't give us any excuses.
Young people feeding them guns and drugs. And you are such a silly young man. You are out there killing one another. 18 in one day in Chicago. Do you think that you will escape the wrath of God?
We know better. We've just been conditioned to not care. We've been taught that we can only be of value if we are contributing to white society. And that has everything to do with economics. Again, racism is not a social issue. It's an economic issue. So when it comes time to discuss the homicide in the black community, you would have to go to the root cause of the problem, and that is systematic and systemic racism.
Yeah. And now there's many things involved. First of all, it's a society. It's set up in such a way where there's a lot of desperate people who can't get jobs. A lot of brothers who are incarcerated. The incarceration level is ridiculous. 85% is black and Hispanic that's locked up, like 85% of the people in society committing the fucking crimes. That's retarded. But they don't have the tools to get out. They don't have the money to go to court and get a good attorney. So a lot of folks who are even innocent are going in because they caught and they don't have the right money to be able to deal with getting out. So you create an oppressive society with no jobs, and a whole bunch of people living on top of each other. Then you create a dog-eat-dog environment.
But they've convinced us, many of us, that doing that in somehow or some way supports racism.
That's just part of it. But there's so many elements to it. But one of the elements is white America is not going to come to the rescue. That's why I was saying I love Barack Obama. And he did a lot of things great. But the one thing that am upset with that he did not do is he never came out and spoke against the black on black violence in our communities and us doing something about it. He never came to the podium and said, hey, brothers, hold up. I made it to this podium. I made it as president. I came from hard times and I made this. You can make this. Let's get some society out there to look at this, and let's look at police feeling comfortable killing black people whenever they want to. Let's look at that closer. That would have gave me so much love and respect for him.
He did speak about Trayvon Martin.
He did.
He said that could have been my son or me. I forgot the words he used.
Thank you for that, Barack. I'm glad he did that. But there's so much more he could have said. He was in there 8 years.
Black life has to matter to black people, period. And I don't care what white people say or do. Black life has to matter to us, period. If it doesn't matter to us, period, then it won't matter at all.
Plus, we do a lot of cutting and shooting of each other, though we profess to be nonviolent.
So it's time we stop running, and it's time we start being who God said we were. And that is greatness in the flesh. Wait for it. Free blacks, get money. Go.